Hey there, folks. Just clicking the invite button here, giving people a chance to tune in case they're interested in hearing what I have to say this morning. I'll be talking a little bit about political prisoners and strategic arrests, how they're used to intimidate people and prevent us from being activists. You know, we see people like Chelsea Manning and Barrett Brown. We see people like, Julian Assange or, Red Fawn, that they took a stand based on their principles in what law enforcement considers an illegal manner, but which is largely nonviolent, prayerful and peaceful, and oftentimes actually legal, and police have to fabricate charges in order to try and create these detention situations. So, the use of political prisoners is intended to scare people away from direct action. It's intended to intimidate you and keep you on the sidelines because they don't want us to band together. They don't want us to be active, engaged, solution-based people. They want us to stand by and be afraid while they do whatever they want. And when I say they, I mean corporations and the police that they're the enforcement arm for those corporations. Sorry, I'm clicking the invite button here, so I can't really see what's going on. And so I don't know if the angle's any good. If it's not, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to give folks a chance to tune in case they're interested in hearing what I have to say this morning. So, basically, the police are used as a form of intimidation. They fabricate charges and lie about activists on the regular to try and scare other people away from direct actions. And a lot of times the media is complicit in this. People who pay attention and who are engaged, who are activists, you recognize when news articles are put out as a form of intimidation. So a lot of news articles are published purely for the purpose of scaring you and preventing you from being an activist, preventing you from engaging and, helping to save the environment, helping to save missing and murdered women, helping to advocate for the rights of homeless people, organic gardening, whatever cause it is that you stand for. They'll publish these news articles saying so-and-so is facing such and such jail time for this activity. And, it's all speculative. Like, they don't have the actual convictions. They don't have any, all they have is propaganda, basically. And, a lot of media is geared towards intimidation. And once you start looking at news reports with this sort of, skeptical eye, then you'll be able to recognize when they're trying to scare you away from engaging in right action. And we saw this a lot during Occupy Wall Street. During Occupy Wall Street, they're saying things like, people at the camps are doing drugs, it's an unhealthy environment, there's diseases getting passed around, it's unsafe for women and children, stay away if you value your life. Meanwhile, you go down there and there's people with like a free library giving away food and health care. That's essentially what was going on at Standing Rock. These prayer camps, if you go to a prayer camp, mostly what you're going to find is people taking care of each other. And when people take care of each other, it takes that responsibility away from law enforcement. It takes that responsibility away from government, and it delegitimizes their efforts, because a lot of times the sorts of efforts that they're making are not good for society. So political prisoners are a form of intimidation. They take people into custody, they put way trumped up charges that aren't based on the reality of the situation in an effort to get a conviction, or better yet, a plea bargain. And I just was reading an article about a young man that he's facing a year in jail for his actions. They lied about what he had done and took him to trial on felony charges. So they used these felony charges against a person who was peaceful, legal, and prayerful, fabricated lies, rebroadcast the lies in the media, and then at trial got a conviction against this guy. So now he's going to go to jail for protecting Native women warriors. That's what he was doing. He was standing between the Native women and the fascist police. So, what happens is that then the media trots out this narrative where they say, this person is a felon, they're a convicted felon, they're dangerous. Meanwhile, the charges were a lie in the first place. And then they'll say things like, well, there are known felons down at the water protectors camp. And it's like, yeah, they're felons because of miscarriage of justice. Because law enforcement lies, the media lies, and then the lawyers use the lies to gain these convictions. So, people like Red Fawn, people like, Dion Ortiz, these people, they're not bad people. They're not dangerous people. They certainly don't deserve to be in jail on trumped up charges. So anyway, I just want you guys to reflect for a minute on some of the media that you end up seeing, and whether that media is actually a propaganda piece put out in an effort to intimidate you from participating or joining in what is a peaceful, legal, prayerful activity. And if it is that, if what the media that you are watching is a propaganda piece, is a hit piece, is an intimidation piece, then call that media outlet and tell them, you're putting out lies, you're putting out propaganda. We have to start holding accountable media outlets for their deceptions. If they're going to lie to us and they're going to join in the lies being put out by police officers, lying police officers, then they need to be accountable for that. So, it's not that hard. For one thing, it's not that hard. If you actually care about the condition of our country, then take the time to contact your local media outlet and let them know that they're cowards. They're cowards for not doing the research themselves and instead taking the word of criminal police. Let them know that their journalistic integrity is trash, and I hate to say this, but the president is right and they're fake news outlets. Because we don't recognize Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, CNN. We don't recognize the fact that these corporate media outlets lie all the time. We don't recognize it as being state-sponsored media because we believe that state-sponsored media is directly controlled by the state, like in China or in Afghanistan or Iraq. But in the United States, we have state-sponsored media. We don't think about it like that, but our media is actually state-sponsored. And an example of how our media is state-sponsored is they broadcast on public airwaves. So then it's publicly owned broadcast channels. They have to lease the broadcast channels from the public in order to transmit their lies. So, they actually should be held accountable for it, because they're abusing the public trust by putting out known falsehoods on public airwaves. It's one thing if you lie to somebody and you just go to a person and lie to them. It's a whole other thing when you knowingly deceive people through the public airwaves. And it's subtle, because if they just blatantly lie, then you'll stop listening. So, watch out for media deception. Watch out for pieces that are put out there to intimidate you and manipulate you and prevent you from being an engaged, active member of society. And especially watch out for political prisoners, because a lot of times the people who are being portrayed as some sort of thugs or some sort of violent, subversive terrorists or whatever, they're actually just being hit by media, law enforcement, and the judicial branch. They're actually not bad people at all. They're just being lied about by the media. So, that's part of why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Right now, I'm seeing doctors and counselors and dentists because I want to establish that I'm a decent human being. I want to establish that I'm not a dangerous person. I'm a good person. I might have some trauma in my life. I might want to dissociate from a dysfunctional society that's killing people. I might want to dissociate from corrupt state-sponsored media that is used as a form of intimidation. But that doesn't make me a bad person. If anything, I think that makes me a more rational person, a more sane person, and a person of better character. But that's my opinion of myself. So, sorry, still getting over my cough a little bit here, but I just want to let you guys know, there are political prisoners in our country, okay? There are political prisoners who were arrested during Standing Rock, and there are going to be more of them because there are still hundreds of people who haven't gone to trial for what was legal behavior, constitutionally protected behavior that they engaged in at Standing Rock. So, yeah, just, try and take your media with an ounce of skepticism, or maybe a pound of skepticism, and try and hold your media accountable, and absolutely do not be intimidated by the taking of political prisoners, because that's the entire purpose of taking political prisoners, is to scare you into hiding, to scare you into your home, into your little cubicle, and out of the streets, because they don't want an active, engaged citizenry in the streets speaking out on behalf of political prisoners. That's why, there's a story about this young woman in Palestine. She's a Palestinian child, okay? At this point, the Palestinian people have been attacked, killed, rounded up, shot, exploded with missiles, bombs. They've been incarcerated and killed so many times over that it's the young children who are currently the activists in Palestine. So there's this young child that has been taken by the Israeli occupational forces, and they're detaining her for slapping a soldier. So here's a guy who is not only invading the sovereign territory of the Palestinian people, but has, now, while just following orders, taken into custody a child who was resisting an occupation of a foreign military force. So, you know, the press is trying to portray her like she's some sort of a criminal. And the press is trying to intimidate other Palestinian people from standing up for their land. And basically, there's a lot of coverage of this political prisoner because they want you to know they'll arrest a little girl. They will arrest a little girl for slapping an invader. And they want you to know you better not stand up, you better not speak out, because if you do, we don't care even if you are a little girl, we'll take you into custody. So, you know, just be aware that a lot of times media is put out as a form of intimidation, and the portrayal of political prisoners as criminals is a part of that. And with all that said, I'm going to let you guys go. I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day out there.